Since the release of its first video game back in 2001, it didn't take long for the Halo franchise to become one of the biggest science fiction titles in the history of Microsoft. So, when fans were told that a television series was in the making, they couldn't help but get excited. But what do we actually know about the latest Halo-based installment, and when can you expect its release? For all this and more, stay tuned. First of all, the development of the television series has been in the works for some time. For those of you who don't know, the Halo television series was actually first announced back in 2013 and was said to have Steven Spielberg in its corner, serving as the show's executive producer. This was big news, considering how Spielberg has always been considered one of the biggest names in science fiction, with Star Wars only starting to go downhill once he sold the proprietary rights to Walt Disney Studios. Fans were a little dumbfounded when 2018 came along though, and no news had been made available in respect of the release date of the promised television show. While calling for transparency, an announcement was made that the Halo television series was to be moved to Showtime, which had ordered a 10-episode run of the first season. But, as we're sure to know, things stalled out once more, with Halo fans demanding that the network give them what was promised. There's no real information out there discussing these major delays, but rumor has it that the network was scared to develop a series that had garnered so much hype despite the network having done nothing. It must also be said that at that point, Master Chief was only remembered by a select few fans, with others turning their attention to the other popular first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield. The revival of the franchise with Halo Infinite last year showed that fans still exist though, which might explain why things have developed. So when can we expect the television show to release? It goes without saying, but things have been tough with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. Everything that was greenlit to begin back in 2019 has been somewhat delayed by the spread of the dangerous virus, many sets having to shut down on the odd occasion whenever a positive test was received. That being said, things have calmed down drastically since then, with the majority of the developed world deciding to vaccinate against COVID-19, lessening the terrifying symptoms of the virus in an effort to minimize the delays present. This has resulted in a number of seasons continuing despite pandemic, but not all titles have been that lucky. Look at the popular science fiction show Stranger Things, for example. Netflix has yet to announce the release date of the 4th season of the show, and fans have already forgotten the hype that they had previously felt. And as we said earlier, the Halo television show has already been around this bend, the introduction of Halo Infinite finally waking fans of the original franchise up again. So, while we know that Paramount Plus is doing its best to push out the show sometime this year, we aren't surprised that a release date has yet to be announced. According to its official teaser trailer, which was released at the 2021 Game Awards last year, the show will be streaming come 2022 though. That's a promise that Paramount Plus has felt comfortable giving fans. Speaking of the teaser trailer, what does this tell us about the context of the show? Well, they call it a teaser trailer for a reason. It isn't supposed to give much information about the show it's teasing, regardless of how much fans demand it. The whole purpose of a teaser trailer is to make sure that the show has sufficient hype after all. And considering the vast amount of applause it received at last year's Game Awards, it goes without saying that it's done its job. We can make a few assumptions based on what we've seen. First of all, the show will be available to stream on Paramount Plus sometime this year, and nowhere else. So, if you don't have an account with the emerging streaming giant, it might be time to do your research on how much it might cost you. Secondly, by the look of the environment teased, we may very well be spending some time on the Sangheili homeworld where we spent most of our time as Master Chief. The presence of the famous Spartan in the first few seconds of a short trailer also confirms that the television show will be revolving around him, and we wouldn't be surprised if the first season deals with his journey to find Cortana. In fact, some fans have suggested that it's Cortana we hear talking to Master Chief throughout the runtime of the teaser trailer. Either way, it looks like the show is going to be a majestic experience with some of the best visuals in the history of Paramount Plus. But who can we expect to see in the final product? Unfortunately for us, the casting of the Halo television series has been kept under wraps for quite some time, so unless you want to deal with untrustworthy leaks, things are going to have to stay somewhat in the dark. That being said, we do know a few actors and actresses who will be finding their way to the silver screen during the runtime of the show. The first is Pablo Schreiber, who will be portraying the one and only Master Chief. And as you can imagine, this isn't Pablo's first time behind the camera. You may recognize him from his rather limited role in American Gods, or as the face of Nick Sobotka in The Wire. He also made a name for himself by securing many tough guy roles that will suit the delivery needed to bring Master Chief to life. Just take a look at 13 Hours and Den of Thieves to see what we're talking. We also know that Cortana, who is by far one of the most beloved characters of the franchise, will be portrayed by Jen Taylor. This is exciting news, as the voice actor was responsible for the portrayal of the character in every major Halo game, something that fans of the franchise are incredibly thankful for. We will have to see how she takes to a live-action adaptation though. Last but not least, prominent Hindi actress Shabana Azmi has been brought on to bring Admiral Margaret Parangoski to life. The showrunners are making some creative changes to the lore of the show, though. This isn't something that gamers will be especially happy to hear, but when it comes down to it, this is somewhat necessary in the demographic of today. Just look at the various video adaptations that have been introduced over the last few years, and you'll know what we're talking. The vast majority of them have been fun, but ridiculous. Resident Evil and Assassin's Creed being great examples of creative control being an issue. The showrunners don't want the same to happen to the Halo franchise, which is why they've done their best to ensure that some changes are made to keep even long-term fans on their toes. Yeren Ha, for example, has been brought on to play a brand new character by the name Kwan Ah. All we really know about her is she's a rather shrewd and audacious teenager from the Outer Colonies that is set to meet Master Chief and make an impact. There's been a pretty large concentration quote-unquote hero fathers over the past year. Just look at Station 11, The Mandalorian, the upcoming The Last of Us franchise for good examples. So we're thinking that Kwan Ah could be used to develop the emotional range of Master Chief, which was always somewhat limited in games. There has also been talk of portions of the show being shot from Master Chief's perspective, which should be pretty reminiscent. Last but not least, men and women behind the camera have some real talent. Guiding the series through highs and lows of the Halo lore is Kyle Killen as executive producer, who you'll probably know for the creation of the critically acclaimed series Lone Star, as well as the NBC show Wake. Since both titles deal with a protagonist who faces dual realities, we know that Killen is the right guy for the job, but he had to unfortunately leave the set to make way for Stephen Kane, The Last Ships fame. That being said, Killen has undoubtedly set the way for Kane to come on and make a few artistic changes. We also know that the first episode of the show will be directed by Otto Bathurst, came on to replace Rupert Wyatt due to some schedule help. The shifting nature of the talented crew has some fans worried that they might be introduced to a fractured series, but we really hope this is avoided for the sake of the Halo franchise. And there you have it, everything you need to know about the Halo television show that's coming sometime in 2022. What are you expecting from Paramount Plus series? And do you think it will be any good? Feel free to let us know in the comments section down below.